Hello, and welcome to Good Conversations. My name is Thompson Smith. We're honored to have with us again today Dr. Joe McDonald, one of the founders of Salish Kootenai College in 1977, and since the second year of its existence, the only president it has had. It's likely that Salish Kootenai College wouldn't exist, or certainly wouldn't be what it is, without Joe's 3 decades of steady leadership. Joe was born in 1933 at Holy Family Hospital in St. Ignatius to Isabel Cajun and Ed McDonald. He earned his BA in 1958, his MA in 1965, and his doctorate in education in 1982, all in education and all from the University of Montana. Among numerous other awards, Joe was named National Indian Educator of the Year in 1989, received an honorary Juris Doctorate from Gonzaga University in 1994, was awarded the Montana Governor's Humanity Award in 1996, and in the year 2000 was named by the Missoulian to its list of the 100 most important or influential Montanans of the 20th century. Welcome, Joe, and thanks again for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you, Tom.
Well, in the first half hour, the show that aired last week, we had a great conversation about the early career, part of your career, teaching and coaching all over Montana, from pretty much the smallest towns in the state to some of the bigger ones. And it led up through your being the principal in Ronan in the late 60s, early 70s. And then you began some small grants to start adult education in the area.
Right.
And I believe we left off where you'd written some grants to try to bus people around for these classes, bring them back and forth to their homes. So maybe we could pick up from there.
Yeah, that was, I really thought that we could get a, a Greyhound type bus that could carry people to Missoula and bring them home at night. And probably still not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And they have them rigged now with study carols, and you get wireless computer now probably as you went, and all that. Especially
with $4 a gallon gasoline, it might be a really good thing to get going.
Yeah. Well, after being involved with that, Karen Fenton knew a person that was a grant writer for the Blackfeet schools, Browning schools, and he transferred to, took a job at Flathead Valley Community College. And the people from Blackfeet Reservation, Earl Barlow and Tom Thompson, they asked him to get classes, college classes over to Blackfeet. And Karen was well acquainted with this effort, and so she asked him to get classes here. So he wrote a Title III grant that was funded, that Flathead Valley would offer classes here and at Blackfeet. And I was hired as a director of that. I left my principalship and took the job as a director of that. And right away, they wanted classes in Blackfeet in the Blackfeet community. And right away they appointed a board, and then we learned of the tribal colleges that were developing. We knew of Dene, or Navajo Community College, but didn't know of the others. But we learned that there were tribal colleges in South Dakota and North Dakota. There were about 6 or 7 of them. And we knew that learned that there was legislation going through that was going to support tribal colleges.
And this is around 1975 or so.
Yeah. So Carol Juna was our worker at Blackfeet, which is now Blackfeet Community College, and Mike O'Donnell was working here, and I was at Kalispell. And I was on the tribal council. So we drafted a resolution establishing Salish Kootenai College, and over at Blackfeet they drafted a resolution establishing Blackfeet Community College. And
that was 1977.
77.
Okay.
And so the college was established on paper so that we could be in line for this funding if it ever came through. And that's really how we got started. And then we developed a board that met and developed the rules and plan of operation for the board that they would operate by.
Yeah.
And then we began to seek grant dollars to support our efforts. And Jerry Slater was very valuable in that. He and Bob Paraguay wrote the really first substantive grants to support the college.
And what year was that?
That was 1978.
Okay, so that was after passage of the Tribally Controlled Colleges Assistance Act, or?
Just about simultaneous with that.
But it was for funding under that provision?
No, it was funding from Department of Education. The grants available to tribes and Indian organizations for vocational education and for adult education.
And this was still operating under Flathead Valley Community College, right?
Right.
There was no Pablo campus at all yet.
No, we had a storefront in Ronan. We started with an abandoned school in Polson. The superintendent was Lee Christensen, gave us that. But we thought if we get on Main Street, a storefront, so we got the old McGreevy Dental Clinic, moved in there, and the Job Corps made us a nice big sign. Salish Kootenai College, you know, something with Flathead Valley.
Salish Kootenai Community College at that time, right?
Yeah. So we started there, and then so we were living on this Title III grant that Flathead Valley had, and I was the manager of, and we got some of the money here and some in Blackfeet. That was our funding source. And then about that time, Bob and Jerry was principal of Tweagle School, and they wrote these grants. I think Jerry Brown actually wrote the adult education grant, and Bob and Jerry Slater wrote the vocational grant. And they went to the tribe, but we talked the tribe into giving those to the college, and so they did. And that was a big move on the tribe. A lot of tribes wouldn't do that.
Right.
So our tribe did that, and we...
Who was responsible on the council for leadership on that, would you say?
Well, we really had a good council. You know, Tom Pablo was there, Vic Stinger, John Molitier. I mean, I'll name some and I'll forget some.
Right. You don't want to forget it.
I'll be in trouble.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just to make the point that it matters who are in these positions of elected leadership.
It really matters. And I was on the tribal council at that time too. So, and Fred Hull was the secretary, and they're willing to do that. They kept the indirect costs, but we were able to manage the grants and do purchase orders that went over there, and they paid them. And so that was the one that really got us started. And so
that's what led to the establishment of the campus, or?
Well, we were at the storefront, and then Ronan had built a new elementary, the K. William Harvey Elementary. And so, no, I guess I know what happened. We built the new tribal office complex, and we moved everything up from Dixon up here. And Tweagle moved into the old complex there, and
at Dixon.
At Dixon, and the Law and Order building had some space, and so the tribe let us move into the Law and Order building, and we're there on the north end of the Law and Order building, and we put some petitions in there and had the president there and Jerry there, the Boyd director, and the registrar. We were all in that little office.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the Tribal College Act passed while we were there. And then the next step was to become determined feasible by the BIA. And so we went through some feasibility studies. They came and visited that, and they sent a team out. And once we got determined feasible, we were eligible for funding.
I see.
And so we had this grant money to run our school with. And by that time, the K. William Harvey School was built, and I talked our way into the old abandoned building. And we got the whole top floor of that building, and it was really ideal. We got about 6 classrooms and big open space, and 2 offices at the head of the stairs. And that really, so we moved out of the Law and Order building and moved to there.
I see.
In entirety. And then after that whole year was passed, I mean, we paid for the whole year. We get a check in the mail from the BIA for $280,000 to pay for that year. It was already paid for.
So then what?
So we had that money to spend on the next year, additional to buy equipment and do a lot of things. And
And what did you do with it?
We bought ahead a lot of equipment, and by that time we moved into the Charlo building.
I see.
And so we really, it really got us going well. And we had the carpentry shop at that time in the Charlo building, and then the building at Ronan. So we had all those buildings.
I've often wondered, I mean, Salish Kootenai College, how would you define the kind of role, the contribution that it makes in the community? What's important about having this kind of institution? How would you articulate?
I think the biggest thing is that it gives, gives our people hope. There's hope there because it's a place that they can fall back on. It's a place where they can go and get training, initial training, initial education if they want to, or they can get retrained, or and those things happen. And so it's a safety net, I think, for the community. I think is really the big thing. And then it's a place where the culture can be taught to help maintain the culture. It provides an opportunity or a place for that to take place.
Right.
And people can come in and teach and it's really the only place that the tribe really has total control of education. I mean, they totally control.
Yeah.
And
More so
direct
than-
this school.
More so than Two Eagle?
Well, Two Eagles under the, it's funded by the BIA, so the BIA,
Has a
tells them how
finger.
many days and
Oh, I see.
all that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, it really is. So it really does. It's important for the tribe, I think,
Right.
from the standpoint of providing that opportunity for people to be able to go to school, provide that opportunity to maintain the culture. And as the tribe develops economically, if there's a shortage in an area or they see a need for training someplace, the college can step in and provide that training.
Right. And from the start, you mentioned culture. I mean, from the start, that really was part of the central mission statement for Salish
Right.
Kootenai College, wasn't it?
Very much.
And who kind of insisted on that, or was it kind of a group consensus?
It was a
or-
group. We had a large, at that time our education committee was anybody that wanted to come.
Yeah.
Or Pat and Nada, left hand, were really active in it, and all the people that would come have some big meetings.
Yeah.
Sadie Salloway and Margaret Friedlander, I remember, and her husband. they all came, and we had people from down this way that came, and there were big meetings. I remember the night we interviewed Michael O'Donnell, there must have been 40 of us there interviewing him.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, poor guy.
So the culture was always brought forward by all the people.
Huh.
It was important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned
Jerry was really good on that. Jerry Slater, he
Yeah.
loved it, and he really pushed it and found ways to teach it and
to fund it, found
Fund it.
grants to help.
talk instructors into teaching it.
Yeah.
And he was really great.
Remarkable how he did that for so many years. And you mentioned the hope that it provides for the community. Are there any individual stories that jump out to you in thinking about how the college has helped, the lives of different tribal members who've attended here over the years?
Well, you can think of a lot.
Yeah.
Right here on our own school, Lois Slater, our development director.
Yeah.
She was divorced and mother of, I think, 4 children, 5. I'm not sure how many she had. And really provided an opportunity for her to come to school and to get her degree, and then later her master's degree, and
Wow.
get a job. And now she's had some of her children, I think 3 have graduated from college.
Yeah. Huh.
It's a remarkable story, and there's
Yeah.
story after story like that.
Right.
That you can see the college prior to the establishment of Salish Kootenai College. The tribe had a contract with Flathead Valley to do forestry training, train forest people, and
Yeah.
so while I was at Flathead Valley, they put that under my direction too, and so we kind of folded that into our tribal college. And although they got their degrees from Flathead Valley, we claimed them as ours. And
Right.
so you have people like Ralph Good that directs Mission Valley Power that got his start through that forestry program, went on, got his forestry degree.
Yeah.
So you have those stories too. That
Right. Wonderful. And I mean, I've often thought that Salish Kootenai College has admirably met an almost impossible expectation, because for many students coming into Salish Kootenai College, their experience in schooling up to that point, for many of them, hasn't been that great. And it's a real special challenge for the teachers at SKC, isn't it?
it really is.
Yeah.
Because first of all, you you take them where you find them.
Yeah.
You find out where they're at and where they need help in basic skills to do college work, and you work with them to get those skills. And usually they come really rapid because they dropped out of school or were forced out of school for various reasons, and they're generally always very good learners.
Right.
So that really happens usually quite fast. They get those basic skills quite rapidly, and then just a feeling of that they're going to college and they're achieving something, and there's a goal. If they get a certificate or a degree, they're really highly motivated. And of course, our challenge then is to be able to do that and to provide a good program for them, so that when they get out, they're competitive and they can get a job and hold a job and do well. And so we're really, it's tough.
Really? Yeah.
It's really hard, and so sometimes people don't understand that not everybody can complete the program. but there's a program here that they can complete. If they can't do this one, we have another one that maybe they can if they stay with it.
Sure. Yeah,
and even if they don't finish, I think just the experience helps them. Just helps them, just improving their basic skills and getting as far as they get. They can fall back and on that a lot.
You bet. Well, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll continue talking to Joe McDonald about the Salish Kootenai College and the future, some of the challenges and opportunities facing the college in coming years. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're continuing our conversation with Dr. Joe McDonald, the president of Salish Kootenai College, about the fascinating history of the college and some of the challenges in the future and opportunities. Joe, thanks again for being with us.
Thank you.
Before the break, one of the things we talked about was how culture, Salish, Pondere, and Kootenai culture has been at the heart of the college's mission from its founding. And there's something that strikes me as important about that, the part of what's being communicated there is that getting a more advanced education doesn't mean rejecting traditional culture. To the contrary, it can mean deepening a person's knowledge about it. And the college has given that opportunity, hasn't it? Yeah,
and some of the people really feel confident. I know Dana Hewancorn serves on our board, and she got her degree here in human services, I think, technology. And she's really did all the cultural classes that she could, and she feels really competent. Said people even come to her and ask her about this or that because they are reteaching, teaching that and learning that and making that an important part so that you walk in both worlds, and you can be really proud of your culture and practice it, and still be a very good accountant or be a very good lawyer or be a dentist or whatever.
Right. Yeah, and I think about Oceanie teaching hide tanning here for so many years, or the many language teachers that have taught here, Lucy Vanderberg and Helen Charlo and many others, and how that's also expressed a real honoring of that knowledge, that's the equivalent of a doctorate in the non-Indian.
It really is. I mean, they have an equivalent of a doctor. You think of Pat Pierre with all the knowledge and the skill he's developing now. I mean, goodness sake, should have 3 doctorate degrees.
Right. Johnny R. Lee. And
Johnny R. Lee, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I know that, in my experience teaching at the college, some of the challenges in my very limited experience here, but over a couple years back in the 80s, I sometimes found myself with students in the classroom, all of whom were bright, but some of whom needed some remedial training in English perhaps, and others were clearly prepared to be at the university level. And so your teachers really have to kind of, I'm not saying I was any good at it, but many are at reaching a huge, wide range of students.
Yeah, they really have to be versatile. And those that need help, see that they get help, provide it themselves, or get them to the right place. Right. Keep their confidence up so that they continue to work and continue to get better and develop those skills. And yet at the same time challenge those ones that are catching on really fast and learning really fast. And it's a great. We have some wonderful teachers here. And we've had some here that have been here for almost as long as I've been here.
Yeah.
And teaching. And Oceanie was probably one of our very first teachers. And I think she's even still going to do a little teaching this spring yet.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, a lot of dedication and loyalty.
Pat Hurley in science. I memean, she could have a lot of stories to tell.
Yeah, I think she does. One of the things that's noticeable about Salish Kootenai College too is the large number of different tribal nations that are represented in the student body. I think one of the things I saw on the college website was that in the 2005-06 school year, there were 106 different federally recognized tribes represented among the student body. And I'm wondering, is the college turning into more of a national center for Indian education, or does it still have more of a local Salish, Pandre, Kootenai emphasis?
We try to keep the Salish Kootenai emphasis because that is really our, where we're created, established from, and we really want to honor that. But yet we want to have the Blackfeet students or the Crow students be able to come and practice some of their culture and get stronger in their culture when they go back. So it's quite a challenge. We don't, do Crow studies or Blackfeet studies, but we try to help them and encourage them and get them to participate in, in our cultural activities. And I'm sure that the cultural teachers listen to them, how they do it, in their whatever reservation that they come from, whatever tribe. Yeah, and we're kind of a national center in some ways with, we do some national programming. We do the Alliance for Minority Participation as a national program, and the headquarters is here in this, at our college. And Carmen Taylor has a National Indian School Boards Association office at our college, and we help her with her conference. And so maybe we're national in that sense. But the Salish people, when you look at the history, they're crossing go to the buffalo hunts, and they're going back to get the salmon. I mean, this place has always had a lot of different Indian people. Right. We've noted for our hospitality and for receiving people, and it's kind of still that same way, I think. Yeah. And people come here, they're treated well. They like the safety net of our culture here, and be able to go to the powwows and participate in the cultural events, and it's a safety net for them, and so they feel good about being here. We could have more if we had more housing, but I'm afraid of the impact. We impact the community, largely now, and I don't want to over-impact it. Yeah. We just have a few minutes left, and there's so much more I'd like to visit with you about. But very quickly, I know that there are funding challenges facing Salish Kootenai College and other tribal colleges. If Congress could pass one law doing one thing, what is at the very top of your wish list? They'd pass the Higher Education Act as it is now. It increases the funding to, I think, $7,500 per Indian student, and then appropriate that amount of money so that we all get the $7,500. That would be the biggest thing, because that'd give us base funding. They're doing a lot of other things for us. We've gotten set-asides for Title III, and we support our elementary education with that. We get set-asides for construction, and we've done a lot of building here, as you see, and there's more of that on the horizon. We're looking at about $4 million again to do some more campus improvements, and so we're getting that kind of money. There's new legislation called PATH that's for tribal colleges to access health and human services money, so we can help with nursing and help with alcoholism training and all those different health fields, and so that's working its way through Congress too, and it'd be nice when that gets passed and funded. Yeah. Well, one of the things that's coming up here is you're planning retirement in another year or so, from what I understand. Is that correct, or are you going to be with them for Well, I just tell people, it's coming up.
Good. Don't set a date.
Don't set a date. No, it's coming up. I have good health. And I enjoy my work. Yeah. And I have good health, and I don't know what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing this. Yeah. But I don't want to hold the place back either.
Oh, I doubt that.
So I'm just kind of hanging in there. I think we want to start a new strategic plan and look at that again and see how we get that off.
If you had advice to give the next president of Salish Kootenai College, whether that's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or whatever, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned in your experience that a good leader in an institution like this needs to
Well, you really, I think you need to become skilled in personnel relations and budgeting and accounting, that type, so you can do planning, to be able to do lead strategic planning, be a good community member, and be real concerned and active in the cultural part of the community, and the whole community too, because we have to go to the whole community at times. It's a big job. It's probably bigger than George Dennison's job, and he gets a lot more pay.
Yeah.
Because you're like I was talking to Lionel Bordeaux. One day we're visiting Alan Greenspan in the Treasury office, and the next day we're at Elmo at a wake.
Yeah.
It's just really extreme in it, and you have to be able to walk in those both worlds to really lead the college, because I think it needs a visible leader.
And I can't imagine anyone who could have done it as well. I've often thought you must have been cloned, because I don't know how you can be at the wake in Elmo and in Gnarlee and at the powwow and also back in DC lobbying. I can only imagine that you don't sleep.
Well, I sleep.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, Joe McDonald, thank you so much for being with us. We're pleased to have had the honor of Joe McDonald here for these 2 half hours. There's so much more to talk about, but I'm sad to say we're out of time. Thanks for watching. Please, if you have any questions or comments about the program, send them to goodtalk@blackfoot.net. Until next time, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Send your contributions in.